1,200 years before our era, a dark chamber, a priest presses a heated bronze rod to a turtle shell. A crack. Through the fissures, he reads the will of the ancestors. Will the harvest come? Will the war be won? Will the king's son survive? These scratches on bones are the first Chinese characters. This is where China's written history begins. But the story itself began much earlier. The Huanghe, the Yellow River. It carries millions of tons of lowest dust. That is why it is truly yellow. Its floods destroyed entire villages, and the same floods gave Asia its most fertile soil. Here in this dangerous valley, 9,000 years ago, people first sowed millet. Chinese civilization was born not in spite of the river, but because of it. 5,000 years BC, the Yangshao culture. Round houses of clay and straw, communal granaries, pottery kilns. On the vessels, spirals, fish, spirit masks, drawn black on red. Archaeologists still argue about what these signs mean. Perhaps they are humanity's first attempts to say something to those who would come after. 1,000 years pass, and villages become towns. The Longshan culture builds rammed earth walls 10 meters thick. Its potters craft black ceramics as thin as eggshell. But walls are not built because life is beautiful. Something had changed. There was now something to protect, and someone to protect it from. The Chinese themselves begin their history not with archaeology, but with myth. The Yellow Emperor, Huangdi, forefather of the nation, who taught people to build, weave, and heal. His wife discovered silk. His scribe invented characters by studying bird tracks. Did he exist? Almost certainly not. But for 5,000 years, the Chinese have called themselves his descendants, and that makes the myth stronger than fact. According to legend, a great flood struck in those days. For 13 years, water stood over the fields. An official named Yu did not build dams against the river. He dug channels and led the water with him. For 13 years, he never entered his own home, passing its gates 3 times. The grateful people made him their ruler. Thus, the chronicles say the first dynasty was born, the Xia. 400 years of Xia rule, and not a single inscription to confirm it. Yet at Erlito, archaeologists unearthed palaces, bronze workshops, and tombs from exactly that era. Someone ruled there. The Xia is a ghost dynasty, too real to be myth, too silent to be history. And its last king, the tyrant Jie, legend says, lost his throne to those who could do what he could not. Cast bronze and listen to heaven. 1600 BC, the Shang dynasty. No longer legend, this is China's first documented state. Its power lies in bronze, ritual cauldrons weighing 800 kilograms, axes, spears, war chariots. The Shang king is both general and high priest. He speaks with heaven and leads armies into battle.
Remember the priest from the beginning?
Over 100,000 oracle bones have been found. It is humanity's oldest archive that can still be read. And here is what stuns. A third of those characters are recognizable in modern Chinese writing. Egyptian hieroglyphs are dead, cuneiform is dead, but the Shang script lives in every smartphone from Beijing to Taipei. But the Bronze Age had a dark side. Beneath the foundations of Shang palaces, archaeologists find thousands of human sacrifices. The last king, Di Xin, entered the chronicles with feasts of lakes of wine and executions of anyone who dared object. Meanwhile, in the West, the small principality of Zhou grew stronger, and it was watching the East very carefully. 1046 BC, the field of Muye. The Zhou army is smaller but faster. 300 war chariots advance in a wedge. The Shang army is enormous, and made of slaves and captives. Within the first hour of battle, they turn their weapons against their own king. Di Xin flees to his palace, puts on all his jewels, and sets it ablaze with himself inside. The Shang era ended in a single morning. The victors had to explain why they deserved the throne, and the Zhou gave an answer that outlived them by 3,000 years. Heaven grants the ruler a mandate. For the just, it protects it. From the tyrant, it takes it away, through floods, famine, rebellion. From now on, every revolution in China would be not a crime, but the fulfillment of heaven's will. Convenient and dangerous for any throne. The Zhou would rule for 800 years, longer than any dynasty in China. But there was a catch. The kings gave lands to relatives and allies. Generation by generation, those vassals grew independent. At first, they came to court every year, then once a decade, then they stopped. In 771 BC, nomads burned the capital. The king was killed. His heir fled east. Zhou power became a formality. An era began when it was every man for himself.
And here is the paradox.
It was in this chaos that China began to think. A wandering teacher named Kong Chu, we know him as Confucius, went from court to court teaching. A state is held together not by fear, but by ritual, respect, and duty. A ruler must be a ruler, a father, a son, a son. In his lifetime, almost no one listened. After his death, his words became the backbone of Chinese civilization for 2,500 years. Another sage answered Confucius with silence. Laozi, an archivist of the Zhou court, grew weary of the world and rode west on a water buffalo. At the border post, a guard begged him to leave something behind. Thus appeared the Tao Te Ching, 5,000 characters about how the strongest action is non-action, and the hardest things in the world are overcome by the softest. Confucius built order. Laozi taught how to let it go. China would forever remain a conversation between these two. But while the sages argued about harmony, blacksmiths learned to smelt iron. Cheap weapons, mass armies. Hundreds of principalities devoured each other until 7 remained. Ahead lay 250 years of war, of all against all, an era that would be named the Warring States. And on the far western frontier, among the mountains, a kingdom no one yet takes seriously is slowly sharpening its sword. Its name is Qin. 9,000 years ago, a millet seed in yellow earth. Today we have traveled all the way to iron armies and 100 schools of thought. In the next episode, The Warring States, Sun Tzu writes The Art of War. The crossbow changes the battlefield forever, and the reforms of one ruthless minister turn Qin into a machine of conquest. Subscribe. History is just getting started.